what do you think about Matt Patricia coming from the Bill Belichick tree and showing flashes at times of having a really, really great defense? I think that there's kind of a back and forth going on because he's got a good defense. He's got good players, but the numbers haven't really backed that up. But they've also played Kansas City, Green Bay. Like they've gone against some good quarterbacks here. What is it like to play against a Bill Belichick style of defense, Alex?
You know what? I haven't really played him a lot, but I did play him in December when they're supposed to be like unbeatable. We were like the only team to ever beat him in December. If you look at his record, it's like 55 and like 1. And it's like, we're the one. It's so funny. But when you're talking about a Bill Belichick defense, it's all about the scheme. I mean, you look at these guys and you're like, dude, these guys on any other team are not starters. Like they're just half the D line. You're like, who is this guy? Never even heard of this guy. This guy wasn't even drafted. Like, but they're so effective because they know exactly what you're doing. They know exactly how to play you, and they know exactly where your weakness is. I remember playing them in the like sleet and rain. It was like 35 degrees, like just at the benchmark where it's not snow, but it's not rain. And it was a rough game. I remember we got there and it was slippery, and Greg Roman was like, listen, we're going to stick to the game plan. We're going to run the ball. We're going to take them deep. Like that's the whole game plan today. So we're like, perfect, let's do it. We ended up going up like 41-0 in 2 quarters. And it was like, when you have a plan and you stick to it and you believe in the plan, and I remember that was a big thing that week was believing in the plan. Like you got to believe because Bill's going to come after us and he might stop us like 6-7 times, but you got to believe in the plan. You can't just be like, oh, here's another zone. Here's another power. There's a reason we're running this. This power, this zone is going to set up the play action down the road. This is where we need their linebackers to bite. And this is back when they had like Spikes and Mayo and all those crazy thumpers. So it was like, hey, listen, like every week we had a main run. And what was that main run that week? ISO. He was like Will Tukuwafu, our 315-pound fullback.
That's a fullback.
He was a defensive lineman, but he just loved hitting people so much. And they call everybody Oos, Oos. And they'd be like, hey, listen, A-gap, Oos run down A-gap. He was like, Oos, love A-gap. We were like, dude, this is going to be great. And I remember I watched Gerard Mayo hit this kid, 315 pounds of Samoan blood. I swear to God, the toughest kid I ever met in my life. And Gerard Mayo put him on his butt. And I was like, all right, is this for real? Like, did this just happen? Like, they got some really sneaky good players over there, and they're really tough, and they're smart, and they know what you're doing. I remember looking at Vince Wilfork, and he was kind of laughing, and I was like, what's so funny, fat boy? And he was like, I know you're playing. I was like, God bless it. So I'm like, then you're sitting there, and you're like trying to change it real quick, like, hey, the deuce is off. It's really a B. And he's like, nah, dude, I'm not stupid. You're like, all right, deuce is back on. We're good. But it's, when you're playing those defenses, just know that they know what you're doing. You just have to execute it better than them.
And that's what it took the other night for Green Bay. Washed Aaron Rodgers did have one of his better games, and he made some big-time throws down the field. And what stuck out to me about the plays that Rodgers made was he was willing to take risks into tight coverage because Darius Slay and Justin Coleman are two of the best cornerbacks in the entire NFL. And I was looking at a stat today from NFL Next Gen, Alex, which sounds like right up your alley.
Love it.
There's a aggressiveness percentage, all right, which
oh my God,
I know, but stay with me here.
No, I can't. I'm dying, dude. I'm dying.
Well, this will have some payoff. So this is just how often a quarterback throws the ball into tight coverage with a corner right by a wide receiver. And Kirk Cousins has the lowest percentage of doing that. Matt Stafford has the highest percentage of throwing to his receiver, basically trusting your receiver when he's covered that he's going to go up and make a play. And Cousins last year, among the lowest, it's sort of been throughout his career, loves to pretty much throw it when guys are open. And I wonder if that will be a tough challenge for him because these guys are just really good and they love to play man coverage.
Yeah, and not only that, but they're not really blitzing that much. And, they're going to be dropping somebody in coverage. Those windows are going to get tight. And I agree with you. I think that it takes a lot for a quarterback when you talk about, even though like we joke about Aaron Rodgers being washed, you do. I don't. I never do. But he can make some really incredible throws, and so can Matt Stafford. And I think that when you're talking about these great quarterbacks, that's what makes them great in people's eyes, is that they can put the throw where it needs to be. Like, hey, listen, in a contested catch, it was put in the perfect spot. Like Russell Wilson, one of the greatest quarterbacks to play the game because he can put the ball wherever he wants to. Hey, I'm gonna drop this over your back shoulder. It's gonna fall right in the breadbasket, bro. Just keep running. Like receivers are like, nah, I don't believe you. He's like, just watch. I got this, right? That's what makes them great. That's what people like look at and they're like, man, that is a great receiver. With Kirk, I feel bad because most of the time Thielen's so wide open that he's never really contesting anything. Like Diggs, they're so wide open. Look at last week against Rasul Douglas. He jogged past him. He was not. There was no like. Is this real? Did this just happen?
Yeah,
Like
there was
when
no
those
safety help there.
right, like when you're looking at plays like that, you're like, well, I mean that was no brainer. He was wide open. So I think that obviously I'm not a fan of this next gen stuff. I think this is all just a bunch of hooiness that people get excited about to add more flavor to football because it's not crazy enough with a bunch of guys running into each other. We got to see how fast they're running and contested catches and all this. But when you talk about the great quarterbacks, they have the highest percentage and they make the best completions out of those contested catches.
Yeah, and I think what you see is some of the quarterbacks who can make those throws, they do have great schemes, and a lot of guys are wide open. You can't blame the quarterback for that. I mean, last week, Kirk Cousins was not going to have to throw into tight windows because
Right.
those windows were wide open and
Yep.
allowing 50-plus yard touchdowns. But this week, I think that that's going to change quite a bit. And with
Yeah.
Cousins, I have always wondered about, especially against good defenses, his mentality. And a lot of times it has come across as, let me try not to make the mistake, but then he kind of will anyway. Let me try to be a little more conservative. Let me pull the ball down. He'll kind of drop his eyes to the rush sometimes, and he won't throw into those tight windows. And I think that's one of the reasons why his numbers are so wild between playing against good defenses and not good defenses, where he lights up the defenses that can't cover his wide receivers, and the ones that can, he has a lot of trouble with it. And I think this week, if we're going to believe that he's taken on a little bit different mentality, has a little bit more of a chip on the shoulder than he has maybe in the past, as he has kind of said, then we'll see it this week because Justin Coleman is going to be on top of you. Darius Slay is going to be on top of you. I mean, as good as Diggs and Thielen are, they're not going to consistently over the entire game just leave these guys in the dust.
No, it's not going to happen. I agree. And this is the perfect week. I mean, you're going to be on a road setting. Like, what a better challenge for your team than to go on the road versus a divisional opponent that likes to play man to man? Like, hey, listen, these throws this week, they can't be messing around. But I think if you keep Kirk on the run, and this is one of those things that I want to ask Carson about this too. And I'm excited to see what he says. But my opinion is if you just keep Kirk on the run and keep him comfortable on that boot path or those play actions, as long as you do that, to him is like rhythmic. It's like an offensive lineman. Everything's rhythmic to us. Like you can't set once without setting twice. Like everything's a rhythm. And if you don't do it right, it's like everything's thrown off. So for him, in my opinion, he's like, hey, listen, I like to be on the move. I like to constantly just kind of have a little brisk jog to me, doing some things. I think when he's moving around, he's like these guys that just light it up. But it's when he stands back there that I feel like maybe he feels the pressure from maybe whatever getting hit. Maybe he just knows it's too much time in his head. Like, hey, play's breaking down. I got to do something. It's just when he's on the run, it's like everything goes through his mind a lot smoother and quicker, and things just happen better for him.
Yeah, and it also seems like when he is on those bootlegs, he is very, very accurate.
Yes.
So accurate, he hit Stephon Diggs right in the mask, and it fluttered and turned into an interception. But that was a great example of what you're talking about, where when he's rolling out and he's on the move, he seems to be able to contort his body a little bit and make a throw that is extremely accurate down the field. And it seems like Gary Kubiak and Kevin Stefanski have decided, you know what, we're going to do a lot of that. Sage Rosenfels, who was on yesterday, said that he only counted, out of all the dropbacks that Cousins had, he only counted 9 times where he just dropped straight back. And that was it, with no play action or no bootleg or anything like that, just a straight drop back. And I think you're completely right. When he has to do that, when he has to be put in situations where he's dropping straight back and sitting there and feeling that rush, I think he's worse. And that's what John DeFilippo asked a lot of him last year, usually out of the shotgun, but it was a lot of take the snap, stand in there, assess the defense. And that was where he kind of struggled.
Yeah. And I think that too, when you're talking about this, when you're on the move, things happen a little bit more in your favor. Like it's, when you're moving the pocket, number one, the defense has to kind of try and contain you, right? And then they can't, you're moving around. Well, then everything's like, it's almost like a natural breakdown of the play, right? Like everybody's moving. Now the quarterback's moving. Now the defense is trying to chase the quarterback. Is he going to run? Is he not going to run? Now obviously Kirk's not one of these guys like Lamar Jackson that's just going to go down the field with it, but he still has the ability to get 5, 6, 7 yards, which is an efficient play. I mean, hey guys, the play broke down. I took off. We got 5, 6 yards. We're good, right? We're going into 2nd and 3, 3rd and 3. So I think if you can keep him on the run, and we've said this before on the show, that listen, with this offense, get rid of the drop back. Just do everything on a play action. I mean, who cares? 3rd and 12, bro. We're going to either run power or we're going to play action power. But either way, you're getting deuced and someone's getting hit. So let's have some fun. Let's do it.
And amazingly, almost no matter the situation, linebackers are like moths to flames. Like, oh, are they going to run? It's really wild because even when you see, and this is a little bit of a misnomer about the specific running backs, you'll sometimes see backup running backs in or whoever, and they'll still just, oh, I'm supposed to read the running back, so I guess I'll just or like you said, situations where it's 2nd and 20 and they run a play action. Well, I've got to come up here and check just in case. And then there's somebody.
You never know.
Right. You never know.
And that's the thing is like, the problem they have to do that is because think about a defensive coordinator. Like it's 3rd and 20. They run a power and get a first down. And you're like, hey, guys, what are we doing? Oh, dude, there's no way they would have ran power. Like there's no way. You're like, you can't be the defense that gives up the power play on 3rd and 20 that all of a sudden everyone's like, this is why. Like, God, we look so dumb. But everybody in the league is biting. It's not just like 3, 4, 5 teams. If you really watch these games, and you can go watch them on NFL or the Exos, whatever, watch how hard these linebackers are coming downhill. 4 or 5 yards. I remember playing, if you could get a guy to come 3 yards, step 3 yards up, it was like, oh my God. And we had the best tricks to have them do it. But now they're like in the backfield almost. Like it's insane to me how they're just ruining defenses off the play action.
Right. It seems like it's gotten worse, not better, which is weird. But now this week is where it will be fascinating, Alex, because last year Matt Patricia started having his linebackers not bite as much on the game they played the Rams, and their defense was really good against the Rams that day. They didn't win, but they sort of laid out the blueprint a little bit for what the Patriots would ultimately use in the Super Bowl to slow down the Rams. And here the Vikings are coming in saying, yeah, that's what we do is we bring the linebackers up and we use the play action all the time. And this is where I think if you're concerned about anything going into this game, it's, did Matt Patricia figure out a few things on the defensive side to slow this down? And if they did, what's going to be your counterpunch? And that's what we haven't had to see the Vikings really do is, or at least they haven't done successfully in the games where they've been great offensively. It's start to finish, they're great. They run over Atlanta. They run over Oakland. They run over the Eagles defense. How are they in a counterpunch situation where they struggle in the first half and have to come out in the second half? Because the couple of times we've seen that, it hasn't been good.
Yeah, and you know what the game that I really think about when you say that is 2016 when we played the Colts. Remember that game?
Oh, I do. Yep.
That was
the Eric Swoop game.
I swear to God, it was the worst game that I've ever had to be a part of. And it was just like, we couldn't get anything going. And then you go in at halftime and imagine plan B not getting going. Like, you're like, dude, we're like hitting plan C and D. You can't do that with this team. Like they got to chip away. You got to move Snacks and A-Shot. I think if you can take care of those two guys, this game is soda.